Welcome back to Lift You Up Inspiring Health Stories. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham. I am the founder and chief storyteller of TB Media Group. But for the purpose of this podcast, I am your health and wellness matchmaker. Now, before I introduce you to today's guest, you know what I'm going to ask you to do. I ask you every week, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and connect with me on LinkedIn. Now, today you're going to meet and hear a really interesting and inspiring story from Jay Casal. He lost almost 200 pounds after having weight loss surgery, and he's walking you through his journey and also how he built an online community of 20,000 in a Facebook group, and then went on to create and monetize his podcast. Our physical, mental, and emotional health is not just a want. It is a need for happy lives and prosperous businesses. Lift You Up is the podcast where we share inspiring health stories from business owners who are fulfilling their purpose to live their healthiest lives and helping you do the same. From former TV reporter to marketing entrepreneur and content creator, I care about sharing stories that matter and stories that connect us. I'm your host, Tamika Bickham, your health and wellness matchmaker. Well, today I am so excited to be here with Jay Casal, someone who I have been on his podcast. He's a podcaster, a pro podcaster, because he's doing it every single day, called The Lighter Side. And he's also the CEO and founder of Jay's Tutoring Company. So, hey, Jay. Glad to have you here.
How you doing? Oh, it's very nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you might be thinking, hey, he has a tutoring company. He's a podcaster. This is a show about health and wellness, but you have a really inspiring health story that I think is so important that you share. So I want to hear your story, though, and kind of take me through the beginning until where you are now today.
As a kid, most of my childhood, I was definitely the chubby kid. Always a little bit overweight, the fat kid in the class. There was a couple of fat kids in the class. I wasn't the only one, so I had company. But that was me, and always struggled with my weight. I lost weight, thank goodness, for high school. I always say, like, if there were going to be 4 to 5 years when I didn't struggle with my weight, like high school, thank God that was when it was.
Yeah.
So I was totally like probably the way I look now, all through high school and the beginning of college. And then, I had some past childhood traumas, and they all sort of came flooding back to me my sophomore year of college. And I had like a real bad mental health sort of breakdown. And part of the fallout of that was I gained a significant amount of weight very quickly.
How much is significant?
Like about 100 pounds.
Wow.
Like between my sophomore and junior year.
Wow.
And, it was a couple different things. First of all, it was all the different antidepressants that, we were trying different things out. And, so this thing causes hunger and this thing causes this and all that. So I'm already predisposed. I'm compulsive. I had a weight problem as a kid. So then you like add in the medicine and the fact that I'm going through a depression, and it came and came and came, and like that weight gain was like the start of the cycle that just perpetually went on and on and on and on. Lose 75 pounds, gain 100 pounds, lose 80 pounds, gain 100 pounds. I mean, I must have lost like 500 pounds in my, in my weight loss life.
Right. Just like collectively, however many times you did
Right.
it.
Totally. It was just always like, I would do it. I would get super dedicated to whatever program it was I was doing. Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, Atkins. I mean, all of them. Mm-hmm. I doubt I missed any of them on my quest to find the easiest one. The one that would like give me the least resistance and the most results. I
feel like that's something that I can honestly really relate to. We hear a lot about yo-yo dieting. Why do you think people yo-yo diet?
I know why it happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I know at least like part of it. So I think there's a few different things. When I gained like so much weight, it became that like if I lost 80 pounds, everyone I saw would be like, "Oh my God, you look so great." Like,
Yeah.
oh my blah, blah, blah. And listen, I still had like 40, 50 pounds left to lose, you know? But you hear that stuff and you start getting like, you know,
It gets you
into your head.
going. It gets you to kind of keep going more, I feel like.
It does, but another thing it can have the effect of is, oh, I look great. I'm doing such a great job. Like maybe maybe I can go a little easier. Or maybe I can have a cheat meal. Maybe I can blah blah blah, you know, and there's that element of it. And then when you're a person like I am, I have OCD. It's like I have a diagnosed, you know, thing. I'm a very compulsive person, and like thank goodness that if it had to be something, it was food that I am compulsive about. You know, other people in my family got hit with compulsions, you know, addictions and things like that are way scarier.
Yeah.
But it is definitely part of me. So if I start, you know, oh, I'll just have a cheat meal. You know, you know what I always say is, it's like, you know, that week between Thanksgiving and that time between like Thanksgiving and Christmas when you're like, whatever, it's the holidays.
Give it all up.
Right. That would be me, but like, you know, it's like the day after Thanksgiving, I'm like, it's just the day after Thanksgiving, and then like I close my eyes and I open them and it's like Easter.
Right.
You know, and I've gained 45 pounds.
Yes.
Like, once I gave myself that permission, I just never stopped giving myself that permission. You just start eating and eating and eating and eating, and then it's like it is like an addiction. But then you go, oh, I let it get too far. I know how to lose weight. I've done it before. I'll do it again. Got to pull it back. Okay.
And then you set a goal and you start being like hyper focused on this weight loss goal.
Right. But you know what was happening is that it just kept coming back. And then as I got older, you know, I would go to Weight Watchers. Like the last time I went to Weight Watchers, I lost like 65, 70 pounds, like real quick.
What's real quick?
Like 4 months, 5 months, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, and then nothing. You know, then just like brick
You were stuck.
wall.
Yeah.
And I know myself really well. If I'm doing the wrong thing, I know I am. You know, so there's no like, oh, I don't know what happened, you know?
Yeah.
But this time I wasn't. You know, I was 100% to the letter. And I would try, you know, everything. I was so dedicated. I was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. But then eventually, my second kid was born. And, you know, everything that comes along with that. I mean, it was just stressful and, you know, just everything. And I always tell the story that the night my daughter was born, my second kid, we got to the hospital at 1:11 or 1:10 a.m. and she was born 11 minutes later at 1:21.
Amazing.
My wife almost gave birth like in the car on the way. It was almost like a sitcom situation. And the reason I bring that up is that night, literally on the way to the hospital, my wife's screaming and pounding noises I've never heard before in my life. I ate an entire box of wheat thins.
Oh.
And it's not that long of a ride. I'm going to tell you that right now. So I'm just like shoveling them in my face. I'm like, oh my God. And you know, just after that, I just never got it back. And up and up and up and up and up. And that, you know, that was the last time at which point I made the decision that I was going to have bariatric surgery.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, what is bariatric surgery?
Sure. So there's a few different types of bariatric surgery. I had what is called vertical sleeve gastrectomy. Vertical sleeve gastrectomy is they remove a part of your stomach. So I have like 20% of a stomach basically right now. And you know, the part of what makes it effective is not only obviously the fact that your stomach is smaller, but it also removes a lot of the hormone ghrelin from your stomach, which is the hormone responsible for sending hunger signals.
Gotcha.
There's also a procedure that's known as the gastric bypass. People usually call it that. That one is they don't actually take out the stomach. They like literally bypass the stomach. They redo your insides.
Okay.
So that it like doesn't ever hit your stomach. The food like doesn't ever actually hit your whole stomach. There's another one. The name is actually escaping me right now, but it's like a combination of both of them. And that one is like super intense. I mean, that one is usually reserved for, the people you see that are like at death's door, like 1,000 pounds and, stuff like that, where it's like this has got to stop. But mine was the vertical sleeve gastrectomy, or just the sleeve, or VSG, you may see it referred to.
So how much did you weigh at this point that you decided to get surgery?
It's funny. So the most I ever weighed in my life that I know of was 375 pounds.
Okay.
I was lucky. I had my from my consultation to my surgery was only like 2 months, like not even, maybe 2.5. A lot of people have to go through a lot more to get to surgery. Sometimes like 6-month programs where they have to lose weight and all this stuff, but it's like prove that they can do it and all that.
And why do you have to do that?
It's all insurance.
Okay.
I think, the idea is that they want to see that you can follow a diet plan. A lot of people have a perception of weight loss surgery, both people who like haven't had it and people who are like looking into it, that it's going to be like, oh, I just get it done and then I don't have to think about it anymore.
I don't have to do any work, or I just can go back to the way I was before. Yeah.
Before the surgery, you have to go on a liquid diet for, mine was 10 days.
Holy.
Well, yeah. So mine was 10 days, but what everyone does, and again, not everyone, but a lot of people, is like, what's about to happen to you, so you go on, you have to have your last hurrah. You're like an addict going into rehab. So you're like, I gotta hit everything that I have ever
on day
enjoyed
11
eating.
right?
Right. So between my surgical consultation and like when I had to start the liquid diet, I probably gained like 15 to 20 pounds. I got so sick of myself, like, 'cause I was just eating so much. I was like disgusted with myself that I started my liquid diet 14 days before the surgery, like before my doctor even told me to, because I was just like, I can't eat like this anymore. Like, this is making me so like I was just so disgusted. It was hard. That liquid diet, I contend to this day. I'm now 2 years plus out of surgery, and the liquid diet is the hardest part of the entire thing by far. The day I had surgery, I weighed 330 pounds, I think, maybe 330 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, because I got up to 345, and then I lost 15 pounds during the liquid diet.
Liquid, right. Okay, so surgery happens.
Yeah.
What is life like after?
So like I said, the 2 weeks leading up to it, the liquid diet was like a breakup. Like, it's emotional. You realize like how much you've leaned on this stuff. That's the hard part, because when you wake up from surgery, food is the furthest thing you can't even imagine what it feels like. Because like I told you, they taking out that hunger hormone, you're just not hungry. And for someone who's like a compulsive eater and like has an eating problem and food addiction and that kind of stuff, to all of a sudden not be hungry, it's so like mind blowing. You're like, oh my God. Like, I never even realized how it was playing in my head. Like, you're hungry, you're hungry, you're hungry, you're hungry, you're hungry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, is it kind of like you condition your body to be that way?
I think so. I think it's a mind and body thing. I mean, I think again, like, I'm using it as like you're self-medicating almost, and it's never enough. You're filling that hole. It's now the total opposite problem for a while, where you have to force yourself to eat. And now I'm tracking everything I eat because I'm like trying to get up to a certain number of calories. Whereas before it was like I'm subtracting them. Now I'm like adding them. You know what I mean?
And it was hard to get to.
It was so hard because you have to have an ungodly amount of protein, but you can't like eat anything yet. You're like still on the liquid diet for a little while after.
Okay.
So it's still like trying to get the protein shakes down, but even like sipping hurts for a little while. So you're literally all day like all day. So just constant. But I was a maniac. I mean, it's a laparoscopic surgery, so it's not like a long recovery. You're in the hospital for one night, back the next day. My in-laws stayed with us to watch the kids while my wife went to work, and I was like out of it from the anesthesia, but it's really not that much pain. So I'm up like the next day, laps around my neighborhood like a crazy person.
You were like, I did this thing and I'm gonna make this work for me.
Oh, absolutely.
1,000%. Okay, so you have to sip now you're going from before where you're trying to cut calories, but now you are trying to just get to where you need to be.
Yeah, I'm trying to like build up to like 800 calories a day. Literally. Wow. Yeah. Crazy.
So Jay has a Facebook group called it's called The Lighter Side of Weight Loss.
Right, The Lighter Side of Weight Loss with Jay.
The Lighter Side of Weight Loss with Jay, which he's grown to a community of 20,000.
Yeah.
At last check. Might be more now.
Usually holds steady around there, you know, because we got
steady around 20K.
Yeah.
20,000. I mean, that's a huge community from a marketer's perspective. I mean, that's an awesome community to be able to speak to, have as your audience, market to, and just build connections and relationships with. So when did you start it? How did you start? At what point in this whole timeline?
Totally. So if it's back when we talked about the last time I went to Weight Watchers, now there was this online community that wasn't there before. The app now had a whole social media aspect to it, which I never really dug, but there was also these Facebook groups that had popped up that I was like, oh wow, like this never existed before when I was doing this stuff. So it's cool to have this community, you know?
Yeah.
So I joined all those groups and I was in there, and these groups, like these weight loss groups that are supposed to be these supportive communities, was, you know, I'll never forget it. Somebody posted a picture of a breakfast they had made, and it was like eggs and cheese and whatever, and they were like, they were so proud because it was 0 points or 1 point or something on the Weight Watchers plan, and they were so happy. And these people come on there like, that's fake, that's processed food, and that's this and that's that. Just like, let the poor woman like be proud of herself for 2 seconds. It drove me nuts, and that was like one tiny example of the way that people were, you know?
Not very supportive and very judgy sounding.
Right.
And it's like, let me actually go in and open up your fridge and see what's there.
Well, totally. Like, you're perfect, you know? So then, around Easter time, I made a post in the group. I was saying that I was getting nervous because Easter was coming up, and I didn't really want to have all that candy in the house. And I was like, do you think it's wrong if I tell my kid that the Easter Bunny died? Now, again, 75% of the people are laughing their asses off, right?
Oh, boy.
25% of the people are going, it's not your daughter's fault that you have a weight problem, and what a horrible thing to suggest, and blah and blah and blah. And I was just like, oh my God. Like
Here we go.
Yeah. So like right then I was like, you know what? I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to make my own group. And the whole reason that it's called The Lighter Side of Weight Loss with Jay, the only reason like I became a part of the branding of it was that I wanted the people from that group to know where I was, you know, with Jay. So like, oh yeah, that's that Jay guy from the group who was funny. You know? So that's how it started.
I like that though. That's a good strategy. If you have some name recognition wherever that is.
Yeah, it worked out.
Use that.
You know, it worked out. So They come over though in droves. Like it was crazy.
Well, what was the size of this group that you were in?
Oh, that was huge. That was like 200, 300,000 or something like that.
And you really have to work hard to kind of stand out as well. So it sounds like you were very present, you were very active.
I was,
you were also saying things that were catching people's attention.
Totally. So the spirit of the group began with like no judging. And it just like grew and grew and grew. It was nuts. I remember just like looking at it and like watching the numbers. I was like, what the hell is happening? Like, and it just kept going up and up and up. It was, really crazy. And for the first year or so of it, like it was a little bit different then. I used to do like weekly lives and meetings, and we used to do a weigh-in. Like everyone would submit their weight loss to me and all that kind of stuff, which was awesome. And I one day I would love to do all that stuff again. It just got to be like, all of a sudden I have a full-time job running a Facebook group.
Right.
On top of my like actual full-time job.
Because see, I've thought about this, and we see the weigh-ins, like all of that sounds like a really great way to build community. But I also know that sounds like a full-time job alone. You had kind of, your tribe spreading the word, and kind of in other groups or telling people, hey, come over to this group. So that's really how it grew, pretty organically, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty organic. It was great. I mean, and very active, and still is. I mean, you're in there.
Yeah,
it's
I'm in the group.
It's active, and I think it's the basic sort of ideals of the group have always stayed in check.
So at what point, how long before your surgery did you create your group?
So this was in April of 2017, and I had surgery in April of 2018.
Okay, so 1 year before. So did you really start engaging this community by talking about, hey, the surgery is coming up? Like, did it help you with preparation?
No. Well, at first, surgery wasn't even a blip on my screen. What happened was, it's funny, was that one of the admins, who is now one of my closest friends, her name is Jenny B, she wrote to me and she was like, listen, I have to tell you something, and I don't want you to judge me, and like all this stuff. And I was like, oh God, what is she going to tell me? And she was like, I think I'm going to have weight loss surgery. And, like in that moment, not only obviously was I not going to judge her, but it went off like a million light bulbs in my brain when she said it, that like, that's what I have to do too.
And did you start sharing your journey with surgery before and after in the group?
So the day that I decided that I was going to do the surgery for sure was the same day that I started my podcast.
Okay.
I'd always wanted to start a podcast. I was doing voiceover stuff. I had a microphone. I had, I've always been a performer. If you can't tell,
he has an amazing
oh, thank you.
voice made for podcasts.
Thank you. Yeah, well, when I was younger, everyone always told me to go on the radio because there was no such thing. There was no such thing as podcasts.
Right.
So I was like, all right, now I have this community that knows who I am and will hopefully listen. So now I'll be doing it, of course, because I want to hold myself accountable, and like I want to have this thing, but I won't have that problem at the beginning of no one's listening to it, which would like stop me maybe from like keeping going. Because
you have this Facebook group of thousands of people,
right?
So you start the podcast, and you have instant listeners,
right. And that's how I announced to the group that I was having surgery also. I said, hey, listen, I'm starting this podcast. I have and the first episode of my podcast is called In Which a Secret is Revealed, because I wanted them to listen to it. I wanted them to be like, what is this? You know what I mean? And they did. And so that was it. And I used the podcast from that point. Like I interviewed somebody different every week, but it still was.
And you were interviewing people who had gone through weight loss surgery?
Not necessarily surgery, just weight loss in general.
Weight loss in general.
Yeah, I did do, like as I was doing it, I did do like a series of episodes that were interviews with people who had had like every different kind of weight loss surgery. I talked to like doctors. I talked to, I put together like a more produced thing about bariatric surgery.
I know how difficult it is to get the downloads. And I think I heard a number that like half of podcasts don't get more than 125 downloads per episode. So how were you kind of faring? And I know this was
out of the gate.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think the first ones were like right away. I mean, I got spoiled. I was getting like 2,000.
Shoots.
I know. I got so spoiled so quickly.
2,000 downloads?
Yeah. I mean, I think people were just super curious though, because it didn't stay that way.
Okay.
It had to be, I came to a lot of, my podcast has evolved like in so many different ways, like right along with me. As I started to lose the weight and I started to, the conversations weren't just about weight loss anymore. It started to be about addiction and mental health and, all this stuff. And it really sort of branched out into all these different places. And I would get like authors to come on and like all these different things. And,
yeah,
it got to the point where like the group wasn't necessarily like the feeding source for the listeners as much anymore. Like it was because the intersection of like the people who were in a Facebook group about weight loss and the people who are like podcaster fans, that's not necessarily like as big of a overlap as you would want it to be. But yeah, it was great. I mean, it was enough to keep me going. I mean, I kept it weekly for a really long time. And I got some people on the show that I was really proud of speaking to. And I really worked on like learning the medium and learning the craft. And then at the same time, I'm dropping weight, kind of like
and
crazy.
your life is changing.
Totally, in every possible way. I'm losing the weight. I'm gaining a lot of confidence that I didn't even realize I was missing.
Right.
I kind of always thought of myself as like, I don't care. I'll do what I want. I'm blah, blah, blah. And like, yeah, but like not really. Not now I am.
So at the same time you're losing all this weight, how much
Yeah.
did you end up losing to where you kind of settled?
Yeah. So I got down to, I was like 183, I think was the lowest I got to. From my heaviest, it's close to 200 pounds.
Wow.
Now I weigh a little bit more than that now, but it's like I do a lot of muscle building and weight loss. Like I do a lot of weightlifting and that kind of stuff. My goal, like I got down to that, but I never really wanted to be like skinny. It was cool for a minute. It was definitely cool for a minute. Believe me, I enjoyed it for a minute.
Yeah.
But then like I have a personal trainer who's my best friend. And he told me, he was like, as soon as they clear you to do any like real exercise, I'm training you. And he did. I mean, for like almost 2 whole years, it was virtual, but he would send me workouts, 3-4 times a week. I built up a home gym. So like now I've got everything I need here, all my weights and everything. And
how would you say your life changed?
Well, I left I own my own business now, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
I was working for someone else. I never would have had the confidence that I had to leave and go out and do my own thing, like ever in a million years. It really helped me a lot in that way, and just like the energy level was a huge thing. I mean,
have you had to fight? Because I know you mentioned, hey, the hunger pains come back.
Yeah.
Have you had to kind of do work on that addiction with food, and has it been a struggle at points to not go back?
So that's a good question. Like I said, when you first get out, you're not hungry, but you start if you're doing it right. What you start doing, like when you are able to eat, there is a very specific way that you're supposed to eat. And there's rules. You're like a gremlin. Right. You're not supposed to drink 20 minutes before you eat or 20 minutes after you eat. You are supposed to, when you eat, you're supposed to always eat like all of your protein first, then vegetables, then if you have room left, carbs. So and also it's like chewing your food into oblivion, because it doesn't go down right if you don't. at least at first. So that first year, like the key to it for me was always following the rules, tracking everything I ate, building new habits.
Right.
And building the habits the right way, because yes, like eventually you learn that you can sneak some stuff past it. You know, I remember like the first time, because at the beginning you never have sugar because you're like, oh, it's gonna it could upset your stomach and all this, whatever. And then like the first time you're ever like, let me see if I can have a little bit of sugar. And then you're like, oh shit, I can. Oh no, that's not good.
Yeah. But the point is you don't want to go back. Like you came.
Oh God, no.
So far. And you accomplished so much. I mean, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I mean, I know that couldn't have been an easy road.
No, certainly not. It's not easy, at all. I mean, if anyone who listens and, gets that feedback of, oh, that's the easy way out, like it's absolutely not at all.
No.
And I wish it was.
The point is that you've tried, like most of the time you've tried something. You've tried so many different things multiple times before you've even gotten to that point.
Totally.
So it's, and again, like you said, you had to do the workouts. You had to retrain yourself how to eat. You're learning how to eat properly the right way.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say, it's also, it's a big mental health game too. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of issues with transfer addictions. Mm-hmm. Where like now I can't eat, so I got to get it out somehow. So they start drinking. Like a lot of people become alcoholics. Like it's a big danger. And body dysmorphia is a bad one. Like I can sometimes like look at myself real quick in the mirror and like literally see my old like fatness there. You know what I mean? Like So it's a lot. It's a lot to deal with emotionally, mentally, physically. It's all a lot. It's not easy at all. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
What you did was really impressive. Again, you had the topic that I think people were interested in.
Yeah.
You have the group. You created a podcast where you're getting 2,000 freaking downloads. Have a sponsor. I mean, you're monetizing this.
Yeah.
You built this into a brand.
Yeah. I did.
Because you had an audience first, but then you're like, hey, I can't just rely on this Facebook community.
Yeah. So I totally got more into Instagram. Instagram can happen very quickly though.
Yeah.
And I also get like shaded out sometimes. Like all these followers and I'm like, who are these people? Like, where are these people from? I don't know what this is. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'm like, is this fake? It's not fake. But if it was, no one would know the difference. And all anybody cares about is the number. It's so crazy.
I would disagree with that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I hope you give me a counterpoint.
What puts your content in front of more people is your rate of engagement. So, I mean, and maybe I'm speaking from the perspective of somebody who manages social media for clients. So I have probably a different perspective, but really what I'm looking at, if you have 200 followers and you're getting 100 likes on and 50 comments on posts, like your rate of engagement is really high. You have a very engaged audience.
I agree with you 100%.
Because we all come across those pages that have 100,000 people following and you have 5 likes.
I don't get 2,000 downloads every episode anymore.
Right.
I will sometimes.
Your content has changed.
Well, again, now I'm a daily show and I don't look at it in the same way anymore.
As much. I mean,
now it's more about like weekly listens and like, daily numbers and things like that than it is about that. And that's fine. So as I evolved, as I lost weight and hit my goal, it was like, I don't really want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah.
Like not as much anyway.
It was almost like that story ended, or at least that chapter ended.
Totally. Because when you're me or anybody who struggles with this your whole life, weight loss and food and all that has been a topic of conversation and a part of your brain forever.
Yeah.
So you go, maybe for a little while, I don't want to talk about this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. So what's next? What's next for you?
Man. So during the pandemic, I came back to my show, and like I said, like we've been talking about, and I'm gonna throw out my 100th episode in 100 days. I started talking to essential workers and frontline, people once the pandemic hit, and then as the story sort of kept going, I kept going. As it's evolved, the stories evolved. I'm trying to now we say we're trying to make an oral history of the moment that's happening right now. So we're about to hit 100 episodes in 100 days, which is it's just
insane.
As crazy. It's just as crazy
Congrats
as it sounds.
on that too.
Thank you so much.
And you're just forging ahead.
As we go into the fall now, and we have no idea what is happening. With our schools and the election and all this, like, of course there are going to be a million stories to tell. And I'll keep going until I just can't take it anymore. Who knows how long it'll be.
So if you want to find Jay's podcast, The Lighter Side, and learn more about Jay, where can they find you?
Oh, all over the place. On Instagram at The Lighter Side Podcast. You can go to thelightersidepodcast.com for the show also, and that'll take you to whatever way you listen to it. However you want to. We're on all the podcast things, wherever you find podcasts.
Absolutely. And you are also on Facebook, which we mentioned earlier in your Facebook group, which is The Lighter Side of Weight Loss with Jay.
Totally. Yeah. Come on in. We welcome one and all. You just have to answer a few questions honestly to get in, and you'll be fine.
And then we'll see you on the inside. Hey, I remember when I was on your podcast, one of the things that we talked about that I loved was when you said, build your community, then start your podcast. Don't start your podcast, then try to build a community. You can do it, but...
Yeah. And the other thing I would add to that, not to interrupt you.
Yeah,
because I want to make sure, because you're right. That, and also, have a niche.
Yes.
You can have a podcast about, fishing, just for an example. Mm-hmm. And you could think I'm not going to get 1 million people to listen to a podcast about fishing, but you don't have to. If you get 20 people to listen to a podcast about fishing, and then a company that sells, fishing hooks needs a sponsor, they're still, it doesn't matter. Your number of listeners doesn't matter. It's your number of qualified listeners. And there's and with podcasting especially, by the way, there's 1 million different ways. We don't know the right way yet.
Yeah.
There's no one way.
So
totally. There's no one way.
Now's the time to get in. Only 1 million podcasts out there. So
yeah, and they're growing, and everyone has one. And what's great about that is that so many of them are terrible that if yours is pretty good, you can rise up.
Well, thank you, Jay. Much appreciated. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Love it. No problem. Thanks for having me.
Jay is the one to talk to when it comes to weight loss and even marketing. So make sure you connect with him below. Give him a shout. Talk to him about, hey, maybe your next podcast. And until next week, you know what to do. Hit subscribe on YouTube and connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where you're going to find out about all the next episodes. And hey, maybe even you will be a podcast right here, sitting with me, sharing your story. So until next week, stay happy, stay healthy.